Hello, this is Piero Giorgio. Today I'm in München, in Germany, and I really like Germany. Hello, my friends. So I'm here in Germany today, actually in Nuremberg. Yesterday I was in München. I will tell you a little bit what I think about Germany in the context of economic collapse. So for those of you who don't know about me, I'm a Swiss writer. I wrote books about surviving this economic collapse, surviving in the city, about women and the problems of women. What happens to women in economic collapse? Will they keep their rights? And of course, you can find my information on my website piero.com or on my YouTube channel and elsewhere. Anyways, I'll keep doing this in English, but I will record the voice over what I already did in French because I'm a lazy guy. Take care. So what can I say about Germany in the context of an economic collapse? So, of course, first of all, you should read my books. Some are already translated into English. They are successful, best-selling books. And in those, I explain what could happen should different long-term scenarios make the whole globalized economy collapse. Now, in those scenarios, Germany, as one of the largest economies in the world, would be hit very much. Of course, to speak about Germany, one needs to know it very well. And I must say that I'm not super familiar with Germany. Of course, I know the history. Of course, I've been quite many times in Germany for work and even for holidays. I actually studied a little bit of German in my teens, and I was in Worms. But of course, I've traveled in Heidelberg, in Köln, in Düsseldorf, in Stuttgart, and in München and Berlin and a few other places, but I cannot pretend to know Germany. What I know for sure is that Germany is not like it's a decentralized country. So you have hubs, big cities like Hamburg, Hanover, Berlin, indeed Düsseldorf, Köln, and München, for example. And also, so there is local economies that are pretty strong. Also, what is interesting to know, what I think is interesting about Germany is that the history is it's a bit like Italy, in a way. It's a young nation like Italy. It's almost founded in the same time in the second half of the 19th century. And while for a long time Germany was an empire, was a sort of the Holy Roman Empire through the Middle Ages, it was still a sort of confederation of very large kingdoms and states. You had Hanover, you had Württemberg, you had Saxon, you had Prussia, you had Kingdom of Bavaria, and so on. And these have their own particular cultures. And even today, you see a big difference of culture if you are from Pommern, from Pomerania, or if you are from Bavaria. You see a big difference if you are from the Schleswig in the north, or if you are near Osnabrück. You have a different culture than if you are from the Black Forest area. If you are from the south, like Freiburg or Heidelberg, and so, of course, history was different, and the country was really had two. All these areas suffered from two catastrophes. No, I'm not talking about World War II. Also, although this is a catastrophe, we'll talk about that. I think the biggest catastrophe was, you should actually count the Black Plague even first. But the Black Plague was not peculiar to Germany; it was all over Europe. And in the Middle East. But let's say the first very special disaster that hit Germany was the religious wars that followed Reformation. When Luther, who was a bit of a crazy guy, at least he had severe psychological problems. But anyway, this is not the topic. Anyway, when there was Reformation, there has been a lot of wars, first of all, about some sectarian groups that took this as a sign for the end of the world, apocalypse. And actually, if you look in history, there's a few towns where you had basically some of these gurus that took a lot of peasants with them and took even cities, and then ended up being massacred. And there were several religious wars that created a lot of chaos and confusion and violence, especially during the 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648. In Germany, 50% of the population was killed, and I think this led to a very violent approach of things, a big culture of, while Germans are incredibly gifted in arts, in science, in culture. It's an incredible people. I really love the German people, and yet they learned to have these huge levels of violence in the 17th century, and this was because of the Reformation and the religion wars. Now that was a big catastrophe. Another big catastrophe was the fact that Germany was invaded by Napoleon. And the Napoleon wasn't just about an invasion of armies. It was an invasion of a very special thought, the revolutionary thought. And I think this revolutionary thought mixed with the German culture brought some sort of elitist, pan-Germanistic reaction, first of all, but also which led to the unification of the country. First of all, liberation by Prussia and Bayern and others against France, and then reunification, first against Denmark, but then against France. So in 1871, what's interesting is that the Second German Reich was actually signed and created in France, in Versailles, interestingly. But that led a culture, I think, of superiority, and led this revolutionary spirit was at the root of what became Nazism. And so when Germany suffered from the loss of the First World War, which was really, as we know, a European suicidal war, of course Germany had this very bad peace treaty imposed on her, which was completely unjust and unnecessary and way too cruel and humiliating. And if you add to this the difficult economic times of the 1920s, and the fact that some people from abroad used their friends inside Germany to do black market and to impose incredibly bad, humiliating and degenerate approaches to German people, of course, this led to willingness of revenge and special hatred for these people. So obviously, you had what led to the rise of fascism and in the Nazi form, which is a national socialism, and one should never forget that it's about socialism. Applied, of course, racially and nationalistically in German, but by the way, you remember the people who voted against Hitler's party, against the Nazi party in the elections, were actually the nationalists. In fact, if you look at who voted for the Nazi party and who the Nazi party allied, because it never had more than 50% of the votes. It had less than that. And actually, when Hitler was named chancellor with Hindenburg as president, it was a coalition of parties, and it was the Nazis had the coalition with the socialists against, on one side, the communists, and on the other side, the nationalists. Anyway. World War II was a disaster. We all know that. Actually, it is used against all of us and against Germans in particular to put guilt on them. And actually, I believe that this guilt is unnecessary. It has nothing to do with people today. It's like if they say to, I don't know, Mongolia that they should be guilty of the invasion of Genghis Khan. I mean, this is 800 years ago. Well, Mongolia has statues to Genghis Khan. Well, I'm not saying we should have statues of Hitler, but we certainly should forgive all that and forget all that. Not forget, but put this into history and not live through it. And it's important for what's going to happen, because it has direct consequences today. Anyway, we all know how post-World War II Germany was so successful in engineering, in exporting, in developing, rebuilding and developing incredible technology, incredible machinery, incredible manufacturing, and even simple things like, well, it's not really simple, but even like agriculture, merchant shipping, defense industry, electronics, even software. This Germany became the powerhouse industrially, but also financially of Europe. And when the Iron Curtain fell down, when Mitteleuropa started again to be open, Germany invested heavily, first of all, in reunification with the eastern part of the country, and also with its traditional partners in like Hungary, like Czech, Slovakia, Slovenia, Poland, of course, and even Russia. I had some good friends in Russia that were managing some German companies there, and at least the economical, political less, but at least economical relationship with all these countries and Germany is huge. So Germany had the opportunity to build a new Europe centered around itself, and with a huge manufacturing potential in Eastern Europe, all the way to Romania and Bulgaria, and of course Russia. But of course, the European Union and the American domination over Germany. Let's remind that Germany still has occupation by American forces, because when the Russians left, and I was there, I was in Berlin the day I actually saw Boris Yeltsin and Helmut Kohl together in Berlin, and I saw them, and Yeltsin was like 2 meters away from me at some point. It was pure chance that I was there. I think it was 1993, or was it 1992? I can't remember exactly. I think it was 1992. But anyway, I was there the day that Yeltsin was there to take the last Soviet troops, actually Russian troops, out of the country. Well, the American troops are still there, the Germans and the English are still there, and I think actually the French are still there. And so I'm not even sure there is a formal constitution of the Federal Republic of Germany. So, politically, Germany is not that strong. In fact, its army is today in a complete shambles and disaster. It has very little funds, and like most European countries, by the way. And at the same time, it opened its borders. So what are the conditions of a collapse in Germany? Well, I always put the SWOT analysis. What are the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and threats? And again, I remember the caveat I said before. Germany is not one place, one people, one country. It is like Italy, different regions, different people, different mentalities, different sizes of the country, of the cities. So let me first say that if you live in the city, you will have the same kind of problems, and every city in the West. It's like, where does the food and the supplies come from? Will the supply chain resist an economic collapse? And if it won't, and if the utilities such as water and electricity are also becoming difficult to maintain and eventually fall down, even if it's temporarily, are you prepared? So the answer is, of course, no. No one is prepared. So so if you aren't, you should, and that's where you should read my books. But also, plan perhaps to move in the countryside, because the countryside are super well organized, especially in Germany, which is a bit like Switzerland. The countryside are super neat, super tidy, super well organized, and you still have a lot of food production. So you can have better chances of surviving any difficult time in the countryside. Then what I would say is that Germans, they also became too individualistic and consumeristic. However, because they are smart people, they kind of keep developing some sort of communities and links and bonds within these communities, so that, for example, you have a very strong influence of, let's say, green movement. But unlike many other countries, the green movement is really a movement of city dwellers, bourgeois, who want to pretend and posture. In Germany, there's a lot of small towns who developed alternative energy production sources, who developed alternative production of food. And actually, many people actually feel and are ecologically minded deep down themselves in a proper way. So it is something that is genuine, and I think it's a big plus. Also, Germans, it's I think we've lived in the last 20 years in a sort of inverted Nazism, in the sense that Germans altogether took this non-racist ideology, and while of course I agree that racism is not necessarily a good thing, well, going too far into hating oneself and letting many other people come in is leading to disaster. And of course, the pendulum, as it swings back from this extreme, I hope that it's not going to swing to the completely other extreme like before, and that we're going to have massive revenge on this. And I always say, well, if you want revenge, go against the politicians who put you into this situation, not necessarily go against the people who come in. Of course, with a country that almost had no crime before this invasion of migrants, well, suddenly you have one rape and one murder. Well, you have more than one rape. You probably have 200 rapes per day, and you probably have one murder per day in Germany. So this is, while it's not levels of Ecuador, it is quite per capita at least. It is quite high for Germany. So this will lead to revenge, and this will lead to tensions. Now, let me say one thing on immigration is that, and I worked for Volkswagen in Ingolstadt. Actually, that was the Audi division, of course, but also I worked in Wolfsburg in the north, near Hanover, and I did some software work for Volkswagen at the time, long time ago. And what was interesting is that I was looking at Volkswagen's factory, and in that town, half the town is Italian. So there were waves of what they used to call Gastarbeiters, guest workers. In fact, my grandfather, one of my grandfathers, was not really a guest worker, but was a slave worker in Germany. He worked in the Auto Union, which was the ancestor of Audi, near Chemnitz, near actually Zwickau plants. During the war, he was prisoner there, and he was obliged to work in the factory. But anyway, see, I don't mind, and I don't blame Germans. It's okay, he would have blamed Germans, but I don't. It's okay. It's a long time ago. It's 70 years. Doesn't matter anymore. Of course, I don't care to get any money. Maybe that's the difference. But of course, these Italian workers, the Spanish workers, the Turkish even, they actually worked. They actually did a lot of work, and it was a time where it was needed. Manual labor, unskilled labor, or semi-skilled labor was needed. Today you have millions of people getting in, and there's no work for them. And the only jobs that are opening are jobs that require at least semi-skilled people and skilled people. And we are talking more and more of automating everything, from manufacturing, to picking food up, picking crops in the lands. And so these people are completely non-necessary, and most of them are illiterate. They come from violent foreign cultures that are completely alien to European ethics and European ways of life. And this was a disaster to bring all these young men, especially 85% are young men. And of course, this is going to lead to massive unrest and violence. Now, one of the weaknesses of Germany is that they don't make enough children. And a German woman, wake up, make children with German men. I mean, you don't need to make 5 or 4 like I did, but at least 2. I mean, it's fun, it's great, and so you need to focus again on that. But that already. It's just that people are in this ideology of selfishness and individualism and consumerism. Look, I found, however, that German young people are starting to become woken and healthy, and they start to think again of building families and children. And I would say, have families with Germans, Germans with Germans, and keep your country and traditions and history alive. What else can I say on Germany? Well, the threats are that, of course, if the economy and the globalized economy collapses, who are you going to export to? Now, fortunately, you have links with Eastern Europe, with Poland, with Czech, with Russia even. So you have the opportunity to create new alliances. But of course, you need to clean house first. And you have also, like most of Europe, completely corrupt, ideologically corrupt, but also financially and simply corrupt, like mafia-style corrupt politicians. Politicians who hate German people, and politicians who are willing to get money or have don't want their private lives, which is sometimes incredibly scandalous, to be known. So they follow the orders of the ruling class. The ruling class, which is today we know international and mostly following the US agenda, but not just the US. So there's going to be problems there. So can I say that Germany is in a good position during the economic collapse? Well, yes and no, because depends on where you are. Western Germany is has completely the same problems as the UK, Benelux, or France. You have individualism, you have heterogeneous populations, you have presence of different religions, you have people who hate each other more and more. And when things are going to go bad, it's going to end up with a massive clusterfuck fight and war. Now, if you are, however, in the countryside or in the eastern Lanzers, for example, well, you have much more chances to hold on and survive. I would say to you that the advices that I give in my books, get autonomy, get sustainability, get used to have more and more capacity to defend yourself, to group with people, to connect. In Germany, there's a lot of these transition towns. There's a lot of ecological movements, as I mentioned, that are creating, find some that are near you. And therefore, make sure that you can make Germany great again, but not that great. Not great like in 1941, or not great like in 1915. Make it great like it was in the 19th century, with science, with, German people had incredible amount of science, Max Planck, they had explorers, they had inventors of technology, the car, the automobile, they had people sending, if Germany didn't have World War II, you would have Mr. Muller on the moon in the 1950s, not in 69. You would have had incredible continuation of science and technology and arts as well. So let's make Germany that again, that great again. Not necessarily militarily, or why would Germany had to mess up with Russia or France? I mean, leave France alone. It's a disaster anyway. And leave Russia on its own, because Russia needs Germany and Germany needs Russia. They don't need to fight; they need to be together. Anyways, so let's work on that. But first of all, you need to work on yourselves, and this is what I explain in my books. So, by the way, if you know German editors or publishers, I look for getting my books translated and published in Germany. They've been translated and for God's sake, they are now in Polish coming out. They're coming out in Turkish. They're coming out in many languages, but not in Germany. So we should work on that. Anyway, so I really hope that German people and Germany will make it, because Deutschland ist die Land des Deutscher, nicht des Türkisch, nicht des Congo, or nicht des Nigerians. Deutschland. I mean, how simple can that be? So you can have guests in your country, but you cannot not. It's like Switzerland. It's not the land of the whoever. It's the land of the Swiss. Anyway, but more importantly is get strong and get with networks of people that can be like you and that can help you. And in that network, yeah, you can have people from all over the world. Of course, this is not the question of being against people. It's a question of being for ourselves. And in the case of Germans should be for Germans first. That doesn't mean that you are against anyone else. So work this out. Make Germany great. Make Germans great. The good thing is I see young people in Germany now They are a lot into fitness, into making sure to have good bodies, to be healthy. Health is a big, so this is a very good step. So continue with self-sufficiency and autonomy. I think you only can win if you continue with that. So thanks a lot, and continue to prepare. Ciao.